welcome to day 2 of the Kiara Acrylic Bootcamp. In day 1, we showed you everything that you need to know about mastering nail prep, which is one of the most important things that you need to do to prevent acrylic lifting. Now, if you missed that video, make sure you go back and watch it so that you can be ready for this video. For day 2, we will be covering everything about sculpting and application, how to apply acrylic nails for beginners. Now, we will be covering everything from the perfect liquid to powder ratio, to the apex, to application methods, and even showing you a couple of beginner techniques that are perfect for creating those seamless ombres and Frenchies, especially if you don't have a lot of acrylic experience. Throughout this video, I have been using the holy grail of acrylic nail kits. This is the Kiara Acrylic Nail Kit, and it literally has everything that you will need to get started with acrylic nails, including our award-winning best-selling products. This price is unbelievable for the quality that you get in this kit, and it will actually make a difference in the way that you work. So if you're ready to get yours, head over to kiarasky.com so that you can pick yours up and follow along in this video. Today, we're not going to be working with those cheap acrylic brushes that make it so hard to work with and your acrylic gets stuck to. You are getting a 100% Kolinsky acrylic brush. This award-winning brush was voted the #1 best acrylic brush in the industry, and you get it right in your kit. In this kit, you also receive 3 of our award-nominated best-selling acrylic powders that, paired with our best-selling EMA monomer, will give you the perfect consistency that is easy to work with, smooth, buttery, and literally a game changer when it comes to your acrylic application. If you haven't tried this system together, this is the kit that's going to allow you to do it. We have 3 1-ounce powders. You get a clear, a white, and the bougie beige, which is one of our #1 best-selling colors. It's a universally flattering shade. It looks beautiful on everybody. And again, the consistency is to die for. This is the ultimate acrylic nail kit, and the price of it is unbeatable. The level of quality that you have in here is unmatched, and that's for every single product. I'm going to show you guys today why switching over to the Kiara acrylic system is a total game changer. We have a lot to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started with day 2, application and sculpting, how to apply acrylic nails for beginners. I'm starting with my model's hands fully prepped for her acrylic application. Now, we did this in the last video, so if you missed it, make sure you go and check it out. This is the type of nail prep that you need to do to ensure that your nails have no lifting for 4 to 5 weeks. Now, before we begin with our acrylic application, I do want to go over a few of the principles that most beginners don't realize actually have an effect on how long your nails will last: the liquid to powder ratio and the apex. First, we need to discuss what the perfect liquid to powder ratio looks like and how we can use that to create the perfect bead. Now, when you pick up a bead and you don't drain enough monomer from your brush, you're going to end up with a really runny bead that's more of a runny mess because it's not something that you can actually work with. When you're picking up a bead, if you drain too much monomer, you will have a really dry bead that isn't forming or crystallizing properly. If you were to use a bead like this, you could have air pockets in your acrylic, and that can also cause lifting or breaking. So in order to pick up the perfect bead, you need to find the perfect liquid to powder ratio. We're going to start by submerging the brush completely into the monomer, and then we're going to wipe the brush on the side of the dappen dish about halfway. Now you're just going to lightly tap your brush on top of your acrylic powder about 3 times, and then you're just going to watch the perfect bead come to life. Now, if you do want to grab a smaller bead, let's say to use on the cuticle area, you can still use this technique. You're just going to drain your brush a little bit more. So here I'm draining about 75% of the way, and again, lightly tapping or bouncing on the powder. You can see I still have that perfect bead. It's just a little bit smaller because I don't have as much monomer. And the same principle applies if you want a larger bead. We're just going to drain about 25% of the way and lightly tap the brush onto the acrylic powder to create this beautiful large bead. Now, here's a huge pro tip. If you have a bead that's almost perfect, but it has a bit more liquid than you actually want, you can simply drain the excess onto a paper towel and you're good to go. You can use it again. You don't have to waste it. Okay, now that we have perfected our liquid to powder ratio and have mastered picking up the perfect bead, we can talk about our second most important point, which is the apex. Now, the apex is the thickest point of an acrylic nail. It's what's going to give your nails strength and ensure that they don't break. If you ever notice that you have broken nails that snap in half, you will know that there was a lack of product in the stress area, and that's probably why they crack. So you can easily find the stress point of any nail by pushing down on the nail tip, and where you see the nail turn white, that's where the stress point is. So this is where you want your apex to be, or where you want the thickest part of your acrylic to be laid. Okay, now that you know the basics, we are ready to begin our acrylic application. Today, I will be showing you 3 common acrylic methods or techniques and sharing how to make them easy for you as a beginner. We will be covering the classic acrylic application using just one color. We will cover a classic pink and white acrylic French tip and a classic baby boomer or a pink and white ombre. Okay, everybody, I'm going to show you how I do a classic pink and white French tip using all acrylic. Now I'm starting with this nail because we need to let the first bead of acrylic dry. So we can start with this one, move on to our other fingers while we wait for it to dry, and then we'll come back at the end. Now before I begin my application, I always like to wet the nail tip with a little bit of monomer so it can be ready for the acrylic to fully adhere. I'm gonna start by creating the smile line, and I'm gonna grab a medium bead of Bougie Beige. This is the cover acrylic powder that is included in your nail kit, and it's an absolute game changer. The formula is super easy to work with, and this is one of our best selling colors because it's a universally flattering shade, so it looks beautiful on everyone. Now I'm placing the bead away from the cuticle, and this is a trick that I like to use to ensure that I don't flood it and add additional cleanup work later. Now the trick for beginners here is to take your time. Don't try to get it all done with one bead. Take your time to build up and make sure that you're building with good structure and you're creating a beautiful smooth nail that requires minimal filing later. Okay, I have a great pro tip for you guys. Because my model wants a deeper French, I'm gonna work the smile line past her natural nail. This will create the illusion of an extended nail plate or of longer natural nails. And if you ever have clients with really short nail plates that do want that beautiful Frenchy look, this is a great way to extend the nail plate without needing to do the extra work. Okay, once I have my smile line exactly where I want it, I'm gonna use the tip of my brush to perfect it and make sure it's nice and round. Again, this is gonna help minimize filing later, which is gonna make life so much easier. And I'm gonna finish off this part by placing another bead that will help us build our apex. This is also going to ensure that the color around the cuticle area is nice and even, and we're also building a higher wall here. So when we do our filing, we still have this beautiful sharp smile line. And once we are done, you will be left with a smile line that looks like this. You want to make sure that your first bead looks just like this. You want to get this little lip or wall right here, and you want it to be pretty high because this will help your smile line look super sharp and ensure that you don't get a lot of white bleeding into the nude. Now remember, you can always file the rest later, so don't worry about it being too bulky here. This is exactly what we want because we're using the pink and white to build the structure of the actual nail. So again, I use this pink to kind of start helping build the apex. We're gonna do the same thing with the white. Okay, I'm gonna allow the pink to dry while I do my other nails, and once it dries, we're going to file and sharpen that French tip exactly how we want it. Now here's a pro tip. When you're filing, you don't want to do it straight like how you typically do when you're shaping. For this technique, you actually want to go in at an angle because this will give you a sharper smile line. Now, this is the only time that you can file at an angle, and it's okay. We typically like to keep our files straight for shaping, but in this case, this is exactly what you want. Once we have this perfect smile line, this is what it will look like. Now I'm gonna grab a medium bead of pure white and I'm gonna place it right in the middle of the nail where the smile line is. This is gonna be my base, so I'm gonna use the tip of my brush to work the white acrylic up towards the sidewalls, making sure I cover every nook and cranny. Now don't worry if you go over the pink area a little bit. Earlier we created that lip so that we can clean it up later and still have that sharp smile line. Okay, once I work the acrylic in, I'm gonna go ahead and grab another bead of pure white, and I'm gonna place that on the tip of the nail to add a little bit more strength. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and blend it up and use the body of your brush to tuck the acrylic into the smile line, making sure that you're keeping those sidewalls clean. This is essentially helping us build the structure of the nail, making sure that our nails won't break and they're super strong. And just look at how easy this brush is to work with, guys. You can see that there's no acrylic getting stuck to it. It literally helps you do so much of the acrylic work so that you don't have to struggle. And this is what our final acrylic Frenchie looks like before filing. You can already see that the look is coming together, and we haven't even started shaping or filing. This is exactly why I like to work really clean and make sure that I keep my sidewalls, my free edge, and my cuticle area clean all around. Okay, we are going to begin with our basic acrylic application, but before we do, it's very, very important that beginners understand this. Beginners should always start with smaller beads. Don't worry about methods or speeding up the process just yet. Your goal here is to work with smaller beads that are easy to manage and allow you to create the perfect nail structure. So again, don't worry about the 1 bead method, the 3 bead method. Just focus on creating a smooth and beautiful nail that has the perfect nail structure. Okay, let's go ahead and begin the application process. For this finger, I'm going to apply Bougie Beige to the entire nail. So I want to make sure I build the perfect structure. Now, because we are using a cover acrylic color, we can go ahead and apply it directly onto the natural nail. Cover acrylic powders are actually designed to cover the imperfections on the nail, but still make it look like it's your natural nail plate. Now, if you were using a darker acrylic color, I would recommend placing a thin layer of clear acrylic. This is to protect the natural nail from staining or whenever you're doing color changes later. Now, the first bead that I'm going to place down is going to be on the stress line. Remember, we talked about this being the area where nails are their weakest and tend to break the most. So we always want to start our structure here to add a little bit of extra strength, especially because that's where the nail tip meets the natural nail. Okay, now for my second bead, it was a tiny bit too wet. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to drain it on my paper towel before I place it on the nail. I'm placing this one a little bit away from the cuticle, and I'm using the tip of my brush to slowly move the acrylic up. This will make sure that you don't flood her cuticle area and prevent lifting. And just look at how smooth this acrylic is, you guys. It's super easy to work with, and all I need to do is guide it exactly where I want. Okay, now I'm gonna use the body of my brush to pull the acrylic down and blend it with the first bead that we placed. As you're doing this and working with your acrylic, remember to use the body of your brush to keep your sidewalls and your free edge crisp. This will ensure that you don't have a lot of filing later. Again, as a beginner, you are taking these principles and applying them to your work. So see where you need more acrylic, that's exactly where you're gonna place it. And remember, it's always best to add more acrylic than to have to file later. So keep it thin and work with small beads to build your nail. Okay, now moving on to our ombre or baby boomer nail. After years of doing nails, I feel like I have finally mastered an ombre technique that is super easy, especially for beginners, and it's super smooth, and I'm so excited that I finally get to share with you for the first time. I'm gonna begin placing a super thin layer of the nude onto the natural nail, and I'm gonna blend it down towards the tip. Like I mentioned, cover acrylic powder was designed to cover the imperfections on your nail, so this is going to cover that stress line and give me a better blend. Then I'm going to go in with my pure white, and I'm gonna place it on the bottom section of the nail, right about here. So I'm gonna start by using the tip of the brush to blend the white up gently. And then I'm gonna use the body of the brush to work the white towards the free edge. Now I'm going to place a really small bead of pure white on the tip of the nail. And I'm gonna use the tip of the brush to blend it up towards the middle. The goal here is to start creating that seamless blend, but we're doing it in layers. So make sure every color is beautifully blended before you apply a new bead. And always remember to keep your sidewalls clean and your free edge clean so that you don't have to file it later. Also remember that you aren't putting a lot of pressure when you're working with your acrylic. You're just lightly feathering the product up and then directing it where you want. One of the greatest things about our cover acrylic formula is that it's super easy to work with and it blends seamlessly together. So creating these beautiful baby boomers is so much easier when you have the right product. Now that we have the white exactly where we want it, you can see our ombre starting to come to life, and we can go back to our pink now. I'm gonna be working with much smaller beads now because I don't want too much product. I just wanna start creating that seamless ombre. I'm gonna place this small bead about a hairline away from the cuticle, and I'm using the tip of my brush to tuck the acrylic into the cuticle area. And now you can blend it down slowly, making sure that you keep the nude straight as you're making your way down. So you don't want it to be too skewed to one side or the other because then your ombre is not gonna look straight. So just make sure you keep it nice and even as you're making your way down. And to finish off my ombre, I'm going to grab a small bead of pure white and I'm gonna place it on the tip of the nail. Then I'm just gonna use my brush to gently blend it up towards the nude. And you can see that my ombre is seamless, it's beautiful, it looks absolutely perfect, and it's ready to be clear capped. Anytime that you do an ombre or a baby boomer design, you want to make sure that you add a layer of clear to the entire nail. If you don't do this, you will be filing directly on top of your color, and this is going to make it look blotchy. So always clear cap your ombre nails. And this is what our beautiful acrylic nail set is looking like after application. Don't these look absolutely beautiful, you guys? Look at how perfect that shaping is. And we haven't even done any filing whatsoever. And you got to see how beautiful and easy this acrylic system is to work with. I can't wait for you guys to try it out and actually get to experience it and get to work with it. It's gonna completely change your life. And there you have it, besties. We are officially done with day 2. By now, our acrylic is perfectly laid. We know that our nails are not gonna break because the structure in the apex is absolutely perfect. Now all we need to do is our shaping and our surface work, which we're gonna be doing in day 3. Remember, day 3 is our last day, but it's crucial that you stay till the end because we will be covering things like shaping, sealing the cuticle and what that really means, and applying gel polish on top of acrylic so it doesn't chip. Literally everything we need to finish off our beautiful acrylic nail set. Thank you so much for joining me, besties. I hope you learned something new today and you picked up a couple of new tips and tricks. Don't forget to join me tomorrow for day 3, which will be our last day of our 3-day bootcamp. I will see you all there. Bye.